because they're just taking opportunity away from kids that don't have it. So kids of billionaires, they have it.
Let's stay on the facts.
Sorry.
No,
I'm
do
really
not
angry
apologize.
about this.
No, because this
I'm
is what
really
people
angry.
need to...
Your reaction?
Well, clearly we're not taking away education. The president never said that. He's taken the bureaucracy out of education so that more money flows to the states. Better education is closest to the kids, with parents, with local superintendents, with local school boards. I think we'll see our scores go up with our students when we can educate them with parental input as well.
Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, and this video is a little different today. I'm going to talk about the Department of Education, what's going to happen there, but make sure to stick around until the very end of this video because I'm going to announce something huge, I guess we should say, about some of the action steps that I'm personally taking. My team and I have been working on something very, very special for over a year now, and I'm going to announce it at the end of this video. I'll give you a little hint. Many of you know that education, especially classical Christian education, is where I started. I was in academia for 20 years, and that passion to teach, it's always been very close to my heart, so much so that I felt after having left academia for broadcasting all those years back that I was being called to do something very, very bold, but I'll leave it at that. I'll get to that in a second. First, bureaucrats are trembling as Trump continues to threaten the Department of Education. It is looking like massive changes are coming soon, which is causing liberals to panic as they realize their influence will be utterly decimated if they're not able to continue indoctrinating our kids through public school propaganda. The Biden administration's Department of Education repeatedly targeted local schools, imposing a very dangerous leftist agenda that indoctrinates our children at every level. This glaring federal overreach strips parents and local communities of their rights to raise and educate their children. You know, before Inauguration Day, reports were that these bureaucratic strongholds were seeking tighter controls and more funding, all while our youth suffered from declining educational standards. And obviously, we have to ask, who on earth was behind this educational travesty? Well, I'm sure it won't surprise you. A coalition of reckless, rabid liberal ideologues, along with power-hungry secular bureaucrats, orchestrated this assault on our children's education. Now, ironically, they actually deny their involvement in all this, all the while pushing for more federal intervention instead of allowing states to pursue their own educational standards. And I need not tell you, every year, the ramifications of their reckless policies are becoming increasingly visible across our nation. Many are looking for an alternative, but they're concerned. We simply don't have the economic power, the means to build schools and revitalize our education system. Or do we? Well, joining us today is Gabe Rench, co-founder of the Fight, Laugh, Feast Network and one of the hosts of the Cross Politic TV show and podcast. He's an expert in educational reform who's dedicated himself to empowering local communities through businesses and education. And on top of all that, he's just a super cool guy. So, Gabe, welcome, man. Great to see you again.
Thank you, Dr. Steve, for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Well, it's an honor. You know, we just had Pastor Wilson on the other day, and yeah, I would say we were talking about the demise of the Department of Education, but it's more accurate to say that we were mutually savoring it. we were just celebrating it, and I'm sure that's going to be the same with you as well. I mean, you've been on the front lines of educational renewal across the country for years now. Mm-hmm. From your vantage point, Gabe, I mean, how important is this for us to finally rid ourselves of the Department of Education?
Well, and first, I think we have to acknowledge President Trump is actually doing it. Something that conservatives had said they would do for decades, and yet George Bush doubled the Department of Education budget under No Child Left Behind in early 2000s.
Yeah.
So we have conservatives who say one thing, do another, and then Trump comes in and says, I'm going to do it, and he does it. So that alone is just refreshing in all this. Secondly, in 1979 is when the Department of Education formally became its own department. And since then, the cost of education has gone up and grades and quality have gone down.
Right.
So the Department of Education has added, zero
Right.
to our kids' education across the U.S. So
Right.
this should have been done a long time ago.
Zero, all the while draining more and more tax monies from our wallets. I mean, can you imagine what Doge is going to find inside there?
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness. Well, and you think about it too. I mean, we talk about all politics should be local,
Mhm.
and that should be our focus. And actually, our founders built our nation in a way where having state rights actually relieves the pressure, the political
Yeah.
pressure at the national level.
Yeah.
And in the same way, education should be treated the same way. You should have more freedom to educate your kids locally and have less control federally, and even less control at the state level too. The more freedom you have locally, the better product, the better education is going to be in your local community. And so, I mean, it's amazing that we think having a bureaucracy 3,000 miles away to control our education choices, to control our curriculum, to control, the grant programs that incentivize certain twisted forms of education, and we think that's a good thing. It's really, I think, hurt our kids that we've had such a federal influence in our education, and even at some level a state influence in our local education. More locality is and decisions at the local level is going to be way better for everyone's education across the U.S. And as you'll talk about later, with what you guys are doing, I mean,
Don't give it
homeschooling.
away. Don't give it
I'm
away.
not saying it. I'm not saying homeschooling, Christian education. They're almost always cheaper and more
Yeah.
quality educational choices.
It's the exact opposite. It's the
Yeah.
exact opposite of that inverse relationship. It's cheaper, less expensive, and the quality and the results are far superior. I mean, we just see it across the board. I think with the end of the Department of Education, I've noticed this on our channel, a lot of people are starting to really, it's almost like it's a cleansing moment. It's almost like
Yeah.
they're starting to ask anew. Wait a minute now. Okay, how should I educate my kids? I haven't thought about education in a while. I took it for granted.
Yeah.
And you've been on the front lines of this for years. If you could zero in for us, what do you think is wrong with our education system nationwide? We're seeing the bureaucratic bloat and all that sort of stuff. Okay, we've gotten rid of that. But can we drill down even more and just big picture, I guess?
Yeah.
What's wrong with our education system? And the reason why I'm really interested in what you have to say is because you're also on the front line of business,
Mm.
and you see the practical outward and what kind of humans our
Mm.
education system is producing, and you've also seen what kind of humans, particularly classical education, is producing. So what's wrong with,
Yeah.
say, our public school system, and then practically, how are we seeing that impact something like business?
Yeah, I think there's three things here. The third one will be about the business side of it. The first is, I think our biggest problem has been parents have not taken the responsibility that they should have with educating their children. They've kind of just outsourced it and checked out and moved on. So that's probably the biggest issue. And you're seeing kind of a recovery of this a little bit with moms going to school board meetings and talking, and parents bringing up kind of the sex ed curriculum that's going on, or the library books, all that stuff. So you're seeing a little bit of recovery of parents maybe taking more responsibility.
You mean the far right terrorists?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Good grief. And then I'd say secondly is we should never have politics in our education. And what I mean, education is always political. So I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is why do we have politicians making our education decisions? That's what I'm saying.
Brilliant, yeah.
And that has ruined our curriculum. It has softened our curriculum. It has changed our curriculum. It is, I mean, they're phrasing, recasting what America's history is about. I mean, everything. It's all politically driven. It's all politicians. And so we have to get politicians out. Thirdly, regarding business, I run a Christian business leaders network called Business Makers Network. And one of the reasons why we have launched this network is because Christian business leaders need to rebuild, be the center of rebuilding our economy. right?
Right.
All this conversation about like Christian nationalism and all this stuff, and you know, basically, what to me that conversation is about. It's about Christian ethics and Christian culture reframing what it means to be a society. When a man opens a door for a woman he doesn't even know, he's just being like, that's Christian nationalism. That's
Yes.
just
Yes.
loving your neighbor. We need,
Yes.
when someone firebombs Tesla, that's not Christian nationalism. That's right. That's terrorism.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different kind of national. Yeah, yeah. It's
That's right.
it's a liberal or
National
something.
terrorism,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You're right. Right.
And in the same way, when Christians retake the economy, well, what they're doing is restoring the love of your neighbor back into business.
Mhm.
For example, trust. Good products, good services, not lying.
Mhm.
Good contracts. That's just Christian nationalism coming out the fingertips. And,
Right.
and I
Right.
want Christian businesses to reclaim what we built. You think about it. Christians built our country and Christians built our economy. All the major companies that started over the course of time in history before probably in the 80s and 90s or whatever, or 70s, I'll probably maybe even go back to 70s, but all the major Christian corporations
Mhm.
had either a Christian CEO or major Christian influence on their
Right.
company. I mean, think of Ford, think of the car industry.
Right.
Every almost every car founding the founding of every car company was a Christian who founded it.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and I think like Ford, I think he maybe might have kind of fell away from the faith over the course of his time. But my point is, it was started as a Christian company,
Sure.
and so
Yeah.
we started this economy. Christians recreated this economy, and we need to rebuild what's going on in America right now. So I think the business, kind of coming back as a unit. 2020 scattered us all.
Yeah.
And I think even and so we understand the problem of 2020, but I don't think as Christians we understand the problem of 2025.
Right.
President
Right.
Trump got elected, and
Right.
now it's time to go even harder.
Yes. Yeah.
We got to
Yeah.
go harder, not
Yeah.
softer. And I feel like some Christian companies are starting to kind of we feel good about we feel good. Trump's in charge. The economy's getting better. All this stuff. No, we need to pursue and we need to drive harder. And that's what we're doing as part of the kind of our business leaders network.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I was also thinking of Ray Kroc of McDonald's, very very devout fellow.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's too the way you're bringing it up. I love how you define Christian nationalism as just opening the door for a lady you don't know, just as a sign of just basic Christian ethic.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I think if the last 20 years or so have taught us anything, you take one religion out of the classroom, another one is going to fill that vacuum, right? So
That's right.
I think parents are pretty shocked when they were getting piped in 2020 into their kids' classrooms and they were seeing rainbow flags and
Yeah.
BLM posters, and all of a sudden they're realizing, this whole notion of separation of church and state or religion and public square is absurd. You're always going to have some kind of rabid ideology replace truth. As a matter of fact, if I recall, that's where the term ideology came. It's a French term from the 19th century out of the French Revolution. Now
Mm.
that we got rid of religion, now we need some man created, reason created
Mm.
meta narrative to hold society together. So if it's not going to be religion anymore, let's find an ideologue, literally an ideational system that will replace, literally meant to deliberately replace
Yeah.
religion. And I think we're all finding that out. And again, same thing. I mean, just the gender differences or lack thereof. It's just there's no way of escaping it. We're religious beings.
Yeah.
And it's not a question whether you're going to have a religion. It's a question is you have a good one or the true one or the like.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
you made me think of a fourth point that I meant to bring up too, is part of this discussion we talked about at the very beginning. My first point was talking about parental responsibility, and we think God gave kind of three governments, the sphere,
Mhm, mhm.
and one of the governments God gave was the civil government, and then he gave the church government, and he gave the family government. Well, the family government has certain, authority, not unlimited authority, but certain authority, and their job is to educate the kids. So that goes back
Right.
to parental responsibility. But one of the areas that parents, we've neglected to own is the business area.
Yes.
You think well, a lot of people think, oh, businesses are the authority of civil government, and that's not. No, businesses are an extension of the family.
Right.
And so if you get your education right with your kids, you're going to get your business right. You're going to
Right.
get your profit right. You're going to get your
Right.
business models right. You're going to get loving your neighbor through your business. That's
Right.
capitalism. And so
Yes.
you have to have a good education foundation in order, because the business area, the area of the economy, the business that you run, you work for an employer or whatever, that's a family. The family has authority over that. That's God.
Yeah.
God gave businesses to the authority of the family, not to the civil government and not to the church. It's an authority of the family. And if you own a business, that's again extension of the family. You want your kids to maybe work there. You want your kids to maybe take over someday. That's all an extension of the family. So how much more important is it to get the foundation of education right?
Yes. It's so fascinating because it seems urban planning up to about beginning maybe mid 19th century or so is you lived above your business, didn't you?
Yeah.
You lived on the second, third floors, and so that's where the family was, and then the business was the first floor. Actually, I think they're trying to bring that back with intentional living or whatever it is that
Yeah.
they call
Yeah.
it. Good, more power to it. But is that I love what you just said there. Is that how you're envisioning sort of linking together business and education in order to build a better country?
I think you have to recover that vision. I
Yeah.
don't know how you rebuild a country without first rebuilding the foundation of the family.
Yeah.
And then you got to provide for your family, and so you have to rebuild the way we do business.
Right.
Whether you're a company of 10 employees or a company of 1,000 employees, you have to think, oh, this is an authority, an extension of the family, and you
Yes.
run your business way differently. You look at
Right.
all your employees as family. You look at all your employees. I need to pay my employees well. I need to make more money so I can pay my employees well. I need them to be able to build their own families. I need to, you know, we got I think 2020 was the climax of individualism and kind of this siloed, the government just pushing everybody back to their houses, pushing
Yeah.
everybody back away from their churches, away from their communities and everything. And we need to rebuild if we're going to recover as a nation and keep a faithful nation moving forward. We have to recover what it means to build the building blocks of that society. You um sin separates. Sin brings challenges. Sin separates families. Sin just we get that right. We get the family right. We start rebuilding our nation. It's and it always has economic ramifications for what we
Yes.
do in our family to what happens out in the streets.
Absolutely. Especially in our just our American tradition, our forefathers coming over from Europe and seeking deliberately to build the New Jerusalem, our Puritan
Mhm,
forefathers.
mhm.
And just that's the way they thought of the faith. The faith was a building faith. It was I wouldn't
Yeah,
say a building mechanism, but it was a blueprint for true human civilization. And
mhm,
so we were busy building. They weren't resting on their laurels, as it were.
yeah,
And I think 2020 took advantage of our laziness
mhm.
and our
Very much.
dependence on managerialism.
Mhm.
And my, was that exploited. Hey, is it cool if I make the announcement now? Is that
We've talked long enough.
all right, we chatted long enough. Oh,
Yeah,
I could talk to you forever, man. I plan to when we get together,
yeah,
which I'm foreshadowing here. So,
yeah.
gang, I said at the start of the video that I was going to announce something for the first time, like literally ever. Something that's really, really cool. The long and short of it is, when all's said and done, I'm starting a school. I am starting a school. I'm actually starting a bona fide school. I have to get used to even saying that. But as many of you know, I spent 20 years in the classical Christian school movement with Gabe in this amazing national movement. Education has always been very close to my heart. And, obviously, also heart wrenching to see what's happened to the rich history of education in our nation, which was once the envy of the world, by the way. So it's driven me to take action. So I left academia several years back to go into broadcasting, but I am saddling up again. So I've got an event I want to invite all of you to that you're going to absolutely love. All right. So write it down. It's on the 9th, 10th, and 11th of April. 9th, 10th, and 11th of April. Gabe and I are going to be hosting an event together called the Kingdom Builders Experience. So this is going to be absolutely awesome. So if you click on the link in the description below, you'll see some more information about it. If you come to this event at the same time, you're going to be personally invited to the grand opening, the ribbon cutting of the school that I'm starting. It's out here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and you'll be there to help me inaugurate it. So the school is called the Worldview Institute, and you're also at the same time get a ticket to attend Gabe's Business Makers Summit, which I'll be as well, which starts the day right afterwards. So, Gabe, if you don't mind, can you let people know what you've got planned for the Business Makers Summit?
Yeah, and you follow the link and you'll see more details on this too. But basically, our Business Makers Summit, it's basically like a day event, but we're doing it Thursday night and Friday morning. So you can work all day, you can come to the event, and it's geared towards kind of like, you know, a mastermind of CEOs and experts, subject matter experts, talking Thursday night and Friday morning. We end Friday at lunchtime, but we end with some gear up talks too. So Steve is going to be opening up Thursday night, and then we have some CEOs presenting Friday morning. I've been around the block. I've been to all sorts of business conferences, stuff like that. Largely, they're a waste of time, and their sales pitches or some sort of kind of lead generation thing. This is the subject matter experts and CEOs talking about things you need to know about running your business, growing your career, and becoming a Christian business leader. And so that's what the summit's about. There's gonna be time for fellowship around it. We're going to open up with kind of drinks and fellowship, and then a talk, and then I'll be interviewing Steve after his talk. And so it's gonna be a great time. It's Thursday night, Friday morning, April, oh my goodness, 10th and 11th, right after the ribbon cutting the day before on Wednesday and everything. So very excited about this Business Maker Summit. You'll see more details in the link below, what the structure is, what the talks are, what the address is for the event center that we're going to be at, and out just a little outside of Lancaster, a suburb of Lancaster.
Yeah, and of course we're going to have a lot of laughing and feasting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe not a lot. Well, you'll be training us to fight, but we'll have a lot of laughing and feasting, and that's a guaranteed. Hang out with Gabe is gang. It's life changing. It's cool. You will love it. It's sweet, savory fellowship. So it sounds awesome.
I met Steve, and when he was in education, when you were at ACCS, Association of Classical Schools Conference, is where I met you. So I'm excited to see what you're going to be doing with this new school that you guys are going to be cutting the ribbons on Wednesday night.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be awesome. And yes, I used to stay up way too late in the wee hours with our mutual friend Dave Goodwin, who somehow never slept, I think, during those conferences, or doesn't sleep during those conferences. Right. If he does, it's only for an hour. Maybe he's a vampire. I don't know. But this is going to be so awesome. I'm so excited about this. So if you choose to attend the Kingdom Builders Experience, you're going to get not only an invitation to the grand opening of the school and a ticket to the Business Makers Summit, which is going to be awesome. I can't wait for that. But a whole host of other things as well. It's going to be just a rich, wonderful experience. So don't wait. Like Gabe said, I mean, this is going to come up in just a few weeks. So make sure you click on the link below. We only have limited rooms, so you want to act now. Don't wait. And I want you to come out and see all the amazing things we're going to be doing together. It's going to be an honor to meet you and chat and spend time with you, and just have an incredibly rich time. And we hope a real life-changing experience for all of you. So make sure to click on the link below and register right now. It is going to be awesome. And Gabe, man, you are awesome. I can't wait to hang out with you and be a part of the Business Makers Summit. I mean, we're living in amazing times. Yeah. So I can't wait to have an equally amazing time with you, my friend. It's going to be awesome.
Thank you, Dr. Steve.
Thank you, bro.